To the force, always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. So let's get on with the news, views, reviews, and interviews. Anyway, what's making news is sort of no news is actually good news because the Starfighter film that's filming right now has no extra news to be reported on that is substantial, which is sort of good because, you know, if we got some news, it no doubt will be something controversial, maybe. So that's sort of good. They are still filming the Starfighter film. That's one. Probably the other piece of news, not probably, the other piece of news is that there's reports. It's been reported, that The Rise of Skywalker Episode 9 has blown out to a USD cost of almost $600 million. Now, let me just say, if it is or if it isn't, right now, that figure is just a report. It's not an official thing out there. It's a it's an estimate, but it's not an official report. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did cost that amount because it was pretty intense with the effects, like especially with the a bit of a spoiler here, towards the end when all the rebellion came together, or all sorts of people who were for the rebellion, all sorts. The detail in that shot with all the starships there, incredible. Also with the big Imperial, a Sith starships, if that's what you want to call them, because there's now Sith troopers, and now I'd say they would be Sith the Starfleet. And it was quite detailed. That was towards the end of the film, Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. And that's pretty much the news. It's just, nothing concrete, nothing that is substantial, but, that's what's happening in the Star Wars world right now. Let's get into views. Views is my story idea. Now, let me explain once again. I'm not here to change the story of Star Wars. I could quite easily do a lot of changes. I could quite easily complain and whatever it is. But I accept the story for what it is. And I'm excited, or just to see where it actually goes. So wherever it goes in the next chapter, with the Mandalorian, and then we've got Starfighter movie at the moment, and then we've got this Darth Maul series coming out, I think at the end of this year, maybe next year, and we've got the Ahsoka. But this is my story idea, a story idea. I'm going to sort of touch on something I've said before. In The Mandalorian and Grogu film that's coming out next year, May 2026, I really think, and it would be relevant, because we have Baby Yoda / the child / Grogu as a part of this film. Everyone's eyes will be on Grogu, especially kids. I think it's time to know the Yoda species. Let's call it the Yoda species. There's no actual official species. Now, some people will say, well, let's just keep this mysterious. Yes and no. Mysterious is good, but at the same time, to really know, the backstory is actually interesting. But also keeping it mysterious is also interesting. But I think, if they're going to ever do it, this is the time they should do it. Just go into the backstory or the detailed world of the Yodas, if you want to call it. That's all we can call them at the moment, is the Yodas, the green kids. Kids that are adults as well, that live for many, many years. Anyway, That to me would be a crucial part of the Mandalorian and Grogu in creating a story that would be about, the saving, the protection, and the world of that Yoda world. That would be great. I think, include that that's my story. It's a rough story idea again, but I think that type of story of the whole Yoda type world, Grogu world, or whatever you want to call it, would make sense, and it would be really interesting, and it would give the actual film some depth. I mean, keep it relevant. Don't get off the topic here of Mandalorian and Grogu, but this is also Grogu, which is a Yoda type species, if you want to call it. That's what I will say. That's my story idea. Having the Yoda species revealed, the actual planet, and just a look behind their scenes. Anyway, let's get into reviews. Now, reviews this time is something really unique. I reckon I'm the only person in the world that kept this. Now, when I went to Chicago Celebration, I was pushing really hard to get into the panel, which I'd missed out on getting the panel from the lottery. The panel for, I think, Rise of Skywalker, the preview at that time. And I waited in the standby line, just really, and just, it never eventuated. I just had to deal with, the loss. But J.J. Abrams knew that we were standing in line and actually sent the people in line some stuff. Now, one of them I won't reveal now, but I have revealed on the show before, but let's keep that for another time. But he gave J.J. Abrams. This was said by the actual Star Wars, people there at the time, the official Star Wars Celebration people, that J.J. Abrams wants you to have this. It was a McHappy Meal. And if you look closely, it's got Chicago 2019 Star Wars Celebration. This was, I know this is a bit weird to keep garbage, but I thought this is a collectible. Like, this is something to save you in the memory. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry, look, celebrate the saga on that side. It's a McDonald's. There was no such thing as a Star Wars Celebration McHappy Meal ever. And I don't think anyone in the world has got one or kept it. I did. And I came from Australia, and I went over there. We were in the snow. There was snow there at the time. My God, it was freezing. Contrast to where we just came from at that point. We were coming from the west side, which was quite warm. But anyway, that's the whole American sort of weather at that time. So this here. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 because it is so unique. And this is, you might think I'm crazy, and I'm sort of a bit crazy in my collector type stuff, but this is just something to save you the memory. The unfortunate only thing is that because Rise of Skywalker has got such a bad reaction, that would people really, want to buy or remember that time? No, but it was the time where the Star Wars community yet again went crazy when the trailer hit, and at the end of the trailer, the Emperor laughed. Whatever it was, something like that. It's my version. And so that was, this is 10 out of 10. The trailer was done there. Emperor was there. In fact, I knew he was going to come back. I just somehow knew. In fact, I booked a photo session with him and Ray Park. As a photo session. So I got to meet him afterwards, and it was fantastic. Anyway, so that's my review for something I've got. One of my crazy collectibles. Anyway, let's get on with the interviews. And interviews is usually by a guy. His name is Michael from Werribee South. Yes, he loves the show. Anyway, he's always got so many questions for me. But anyway, the questions are today. Not just Michael. You can send any questions, comments, whatever you like, but make it to the YouTube channel. I don't really have a Instagram or Twitter type thing at this stage. I did, but I don't. Don't worry about that. Send your questions to the YouTube channel. The Force Always. The Force Always. It'd be great. And also please like the channel. When you like the channel, it actually, it sort of gets a bit of attention by YouTube to promote it. And as you can tell with my numbers, they're pretty low. But I don't care. I am the Force Always. Anyway, so let's go into the questions. Michael from Werribee South, Werribee South yet again, just to explain, is on the west side of Melbourne. It's a bit of a dark and dreary area that Michael loves because he's near the beach. Anyway, he's asking me today, what did Jar Jar Binks do to get banished? Well, if you heard, it's actually those words in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, he got banished apparently from his sort of more opinion, I think, for being clumsy. He thinks he was banished because he was clumsy. That is the only answer I can give. It's in episode 1. It's towards the start of the film. Watch it. He answers that question. Jar Jar Binks himself. Anyway, so the next question, can Jar Jar Binks live long enough to be in the next Star Wars trilogy? I actually made a comment the other day and said, what, I would love to see a character that's been there from the very beginning to be still always here and to be in the trilogy coming up. Not a character that's actually died and rebirth again, but somebody who's always been there we know of. Not an original character. A character would just go, oh my goodness, he's still alive. And I made the comment that Jar Jar Binks would be one of those characters, especially with the fan theory of him being a Darth Jar Jar and stuff like that. There's a lot it would actually make a good story. But anyway, without getting right into that, can he live long enough? Well, technically, the span, I think, from episode 1 to now episode 9 would be, I would say, a span of, so that's say 4 to 20, say 20, then 60, I'd say around 90 to 100 actual Earth years, the span of the story. I'm guessing. This is what I'm guessing. But the Jar Jar Binks species can only live to about 65. About, that's the average. This is the apparent, species of the Jar Jar Binks. The Gungan is a Gungan, that's what it is. And they live to about 65, so he would miss out. But at the same time, if he was very strong with something that's within, it could be the Force, it could be something else. Anything is possible if there was a very interesting story of him being alive. At the moment, it's sort of canon and sort of not that he's dead. He was a street performer, he eventuated to be a street performer and sort of got a lot of disrespect and, died. Exactly, I don't know the exact cause of death, but I think it could be canon or not, I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't have to be Jar Jar that lives on. But anyway, the length of age is about 65 for a Gungan, which Jar Jar Binks is a Gungan. So the next question that Michael from Werribee South is, can you believe it? Is Jar Jar Binks responsible for creating the Empire? He's not responsible for creating the Empire. The person who created the Empire really was the Emperor Palpatine. He created the whole idea of the Empire. The name, the logistics, and blah, blah, blah. Was he sort of responsible in having it come through? Maybe because, he was on the Senate and he was representing Naboo, and I'm sure that, Palpatine was manipulating him as well, and la la la. So he sort of partly responsible in the unfortunate, accidental passing of stuff, but he did not create the Empire. It was Emperor Palpatine. Well, actually, it was Palpatine. That's when he started. Before he was Emperor, he created this a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Anyway, so the final question of interviews and from Michael from Webber South is, did George Lucas ever comment on why he created Jar Jar Binks? This is good because I was actually there when he actually said at a Star Wars celebration, and I think it was in Chicago, he based the Jar Jar Binks character on, are you ready for this? Goofy. The look of Goofy and the mannerisms and the personality of Goofy. He's actually Goofy of Disney. He's basically Goofy. That's what George Lucas said at Star Wars Celebration. Why he created it, I don't know. Maybe a bit of comic relief, or just a nice side character, or whatever his intention was. But he's based on Goofy. That's right. Jar Jar Binks is based on Goofy from the words of George Lucas. At Star Wars Celebration, and I think it was in Chicago, it was definitely Star Wars Celebration, and I'm pretty certain it was Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. Anyway, so that is the interviews, and that's the show for this time around. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel if you want. It's up to you, whatever you like to do. Send me a comment, ask a question. I'm not Mr. Perfect when it comes to Star Wars facts. I know a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of stuff, but, give me a shot, see what happens, Be like Michael. Maybe Google a question. I think that's what he does. I think secretly Michael Googles questions. But it's not bad. It's not wrong. If you want to do that, you can do that. Anyway, until next time, my friends, keep rocking.